say, it's usually the staple of blue side is banning one of Sejuani and Yone.
Yep.
Bilibili Gaming let both through to the smile of Shadow and Karen. We just saw in some of those recent series for Shadow looking pretty on point with the Sejuani. So FPX comfortable on the R1, R2 turn nonetheless, even if they do have to give up that Rumble.
Now let's see what the response is going to be from BLG. The Sejuani just works into basically all compositions. So does the Yone. You can play it as a little bit of a sit back, look for picks kind of composition, or as a straight up front to back team fight orientated composition. See what they end up going towards. BLG hovering on towards this. And it is going to be Jwei grabbing themselves this very strong Skarner, although it has been falling off in priority quite a lot recently. When is going to be the grab here for sure.
Double range there for the Sejuani. This on the other side, though, I mean, talking a lot about how every discussion is about jungle right now for BLG. Jwei, what does he get put on in this game? A low-resource jungler that's all about facilitating for his lane. So makes a ton of sense. Both these junglers going to be all about facilitating, but you can't help but come away from this first phase and be happy with both comps, with the champions they've been able to draft.
Very strong high-priority picks have been grabbed for both of these two. The Tristana indicates that you're going to be looking towards the later stages of the game here for BLG, but at the same time, Tristana, once you're on 2 items, can begin to work. You know, you're not having to wait until very late in the game to be able to play around this champion, and is pretty mobile as well, which you very much need into a Sejuani Yone. The buffers on those rocket jumps going to be very important for keeping Elk alive in this matchup. Again, safe bot laners are going to be important. Actually, interesting that FPX decide to ban away that Israel. That means they think Knight might actually be the one to pilot this Tristana. The Tristana into Yone matchup, you can kind of bully him out. You just have to be very careful once the level 6 is ticked that you don't get caught out.
Very flexible champion nonetheless. And Knight has a ton of Tristana games under his belt. Both Knight and Elk can play that champion. So virtually a respect ban going over for FPX. But the rest of the second phase bans are going to be bottom lane centric, as the Renata also going to come off the table, which is intriguing knowing that the Kalista has already been banned away. Maybe trying to deny a good Lucian pairing. But FPX, I do like the misfortune in this spot. I will say Bloxer have come around. You've got Sejuani, you got a Yone, a ton of Wombo, you know, centralizing ultimates. Gives a lot of space for a big bullet time.
This is the thing, right? As much as the misfortune, I think, is bait in a lot of situations, if you build around it, it can work, and you said it perfectly. You have built already quite a lot of good champions. You also ban away the Alistair, meaning that you're not going to be so worried about being able to grab yourself the Rel if you want it in a second. BLG may well just take that one away to stop the ultimate Wombo combo bot lane from being available. BLG are hovering on towards another ADC, so it does look like it's going to be this Tristana into the mid lane. Jin will be the lock-in right here. BLG, their comp very much is going to be looking later on into the game. It's going to be on Jwei to carry them through this early game right now. The support you pair up with this is going to be very important. Nautilus, Leona, Rel, all of these are good options, but the Nautilus doesn't really stop the Rel from potentially being the option here for FPX.
Yeah, you have to pick it if you want to deny it. And it's got to be just a slam here for Jwei. I mean, Rel has to come across. Rakan is...
This works too. Yeah.
This does work too. I am a little worried about... Yeah, I was going to say, not another tank alongside it. So I would like the Rel. On the flip side, though, I think this is also a good spot for Jin as Elk. You don't need to be the main damage dealer with Rumble and Tristana as those solo lanes. We will get the Rel lock-in. So very clear and concise comps from both teams. BLG going to be looking early on to play for their solo lanes, as they always do. It's Knight and Bin put on that pedestal, but FPX have drafted the gold standard of a LPL Wombo draft.
This is the LPL draft that we know and love, but also with a couple of pickups that you usually don't get to see. You know, you often don't get to see the Gwen and the Yone and the Sejuani. Bits of that are usually taken off of the board, often by the red side team. This is wild to be able to get this many high priority picks over on the red side right here. FPX got to be very happy with how they've gotten away with this one. BLG, this composition is much more about standard front to back, and in order for that to work, Jwei and On are going to have to be very tanky, because if they're not, if they just get immediately one-tapped by a composition that's pretty good at getting through tanky champions, especially that Gwen, then this composition just doesn't work.
Very big game for FPX. You talked about how many priority picks. You rarely see them all come together. That really leans even further into the credence that they've got to win this game one because you are wiping so many LPL priority champions off the board. You don't want to do it with a loss. The prevailing question that we have going into this game one, how does FPX beat BLG? Because if you had told this was a matchup after placements, knowing what BLG are, knowing where FPX are as a squad, this would seem like a wipe. But the question remains, is this a new LPL? Is this a new group ascend where FPX can really threaten former pillars of the LPL? We'll have to see. BLG getting back to winning ways or FPX causing more chaos. The two options for this matchup. And we start with the opening match on Summoner's Rift. Game number 1 coming our way.
FPX, they had their win streak that was 3 games long snapped by WE, another team on the rise at the moment. They'd love to get back to those winning ways right here, take out BLG, make it so they fall even further down, not just being the gatekeepers of that top 4, but instead down in the mires of the mid-pack that we've got in Group Ascend at the moment.
As we get to soak in a bit louder Jaios, as BLG definitely bring a lot more fans to the table. Sorry, Group Nirvana truthers. That's just the reality of the Rumble stage. So we do get some early warding down on both sides here as well. Funny that they both spot each other's wards. Everyone loves to ward that side of the Raptor pit. Get a look at some of these summoners as well. Got the cleanse coming out from Elk, even though he wants to play from space, knowing that there's a lot of stuns that are becoming his way. Barrier, though, for Assume. And both junglers starting on those bot sides looking to clear up. So, bottom lane definitely going to be somewhat volatile with a Rumble and a Rel, and a Nautilus. But as we've talked about, and we know with Jwei, he is going to be looking to play as much as he can for these solo lanes.
He loves to just get involved, loves a bot lane dive, but a gank onto the rest of the map. And I think this is specifically one of those games where you can really look towards Bin, really try to get involved in that lane. See if you can impact onto this matchup, because the Gwen is going to be a big part of FPX shutting down what BLG want to do. Like we were saying, so good at getting through these tanky champions, and you need to buy space for Knight and Elk to be able to do their thing in this matchup.
Oh, as Jwei gets a double crash down. Elk and Owen were not in position, not expecting it, and they look petrified. Assume gifted a first blood kill by his support with the lovely combo.
This is the thing, right? As much as I've been on a rally against the MF, this is the sort of game where it can do really well. The Wombo combo is available. And beyond that, you've got a great matchup in the bot lane where you can really use the early power of this Misfortune to bully out onto Elk and On. The fact that you now get that flash and cleanse just gone right here from Elk means that you can continue to keep the pressure up in this lane without having to worry too much about it.
And the moniker for success for BLG for so long since this roster has come together has been exerting their might in the early game, getting such huge lane advantages that they can run over teams in the later stages. So all these little wins that you can get for FPX at this point in the game really are going to compound the success and the identity of FPX as we see the glorious combo that Jwei is able to get down.
Really nice flash there from Assume. Gets him in range to be able to keep hitting right there onto Elk. And also misses out onto that hook. Jwei is just going to be able to get himself over the wall. And I think something also we really need to highlight is the amount of melee champions available here for Shadow to play around. Actually, Sheer just going to have to turn and run. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
The lane swap. Now it's a mistake time for FunPlus Phoenix. Sheer not respecting Owen coming to lane. And Elk, after the Big Mar mistake, gets something back. But Bin, on the flip side, trying to throw down 1 versus 2, does not get back to his own turret. So both top laners fall, and it's to the success of these AD carries who hold all 3 early kills.
This is what we were saying about BLG. Bin has just not been looking good in these cross-map plays. Doesn't respect when we see aggression on the other side, and that wasn't even with the junglers getting involved. Both junglers have been perfectly content to just sit in their jungles, get what they need to do done. And yeah, like you said, it is going to be a lot of kills going over to these key carries. Now, the fact that you get multiple onto this Misfortune is massive, because that is going to be so much of this Wombo combo composition and what needs to make it work. What I was trying to say before I so rudely interrupted, though, was that you've got 4 melee champions available to Shadow to be able to stack up those permafrost passives. The amount of CC this Sejuani is going to be providing during the team fights is insane.
That's poetic. It's great to see that we're putting Shadow in a position to be the ultimate facilitator, knowing that he has been the best-looking player so far for FPX as they found those 3 series wins before it was snapped by WE. Just waiting now on Shadow, trying to get over to that level 6, which shouldn't be too far away by this point, already at level 5. First Dragon has spawned, though. The Grubs not too far behind, and with the bottom lanes swapped as they are, gotta think that FPX are going to be in prime position to likely get away with 3 Grubs and trade it just for this first Drake, which all LPL teams are a fan of. Oh, or...
Oh boy, Bin. Oh no. He's been pretty vulnerable to dives throughout this split so far.
Always the target. No flash available. Jwei gets the stuns locked up, and there is that permafrost stun you were talking about. All 3 kills early to get the Feats of Warfare on Assume.
Exactly what you want to be doing right here. So much proactivity during the early game from FPX. They are going to lose out onto this Drake. Not the end of the world to lose a Chemtech Drake at the beginning of the game. And now you've got a ton of pressure around the top side that you can turn into these Grubs. We'll see if there's going to be a response right here. Jwei is making his way towards the top side of the map right now, but he's a long way from getting there.
The woes for Bin continuing to grow as he perennially plays the tough, weak side here for FPX, but if anyone's going to show that mental resolve, the pedigree that we know Bin has, at one point renowned as the best top laner in the world, it's going to be Giga Bin himself, as we'll have to track how he responds. All 3 Grubs, though, like you talked about, picked up for Shadow here, so with a Gwen on your composition and a Yone, Grubs are very volatile in the side lane threat.
Absolutely. If you can pick those up, that gives the side lane threat for FPX such an advantage. Hook gonna land into a stun. No, just about gets it off. The hallowed mist coming in clutch right there. Without being able to pop that one through, that may well have been a death for Sheer.
Sheer, don't be making the same mistakes Bin is at. I mean, both of you have died disrespecting these bottom lanes. Luckily, though, for Sheer, he will just become Exodia at a certain point with itemization, but putting Gwen behind always hurts. Gonna be able to try and collect a lot of this wave up, but this is what we always know BLG for, bottom lane dives, but guess who's here to kind of stunt it?
Yeah.
Shadow sniffing it out and protecting Sheer from a very obvious way dive. Oh. Maybe he's the target now, though, or just this unfortunate Gromp who is gonna get smited home. Oh, 11 HP Shadow, we miscalculated.
Ouch. Jwei didn't even have a smite available to him at that point, so that is just a miscalculation from Shadow. Is a little bit unfortunate. Still, though, this is not going to change things too much. Bin now going to be another dive. No Permafrost available, but Care still has his own CC.
Somebody order another dive, and somebody order a delicious Wombo combo served up fresh, hot and ready. They hit the bullet time into the Fate Sealed, and it's been going back to the bin for a 3rd time.
FPX, a team on the rise at the moment, looking to get themselves back to 500. They've played a ton of games. They've already played one of those super weeks some of these teams have, where they play 4 games in 1 week. They've already completed their first round robin, right? It's a crazy amount that they've had to play already, and the fact that they have been able to begin to pull it back, 3 wins in a row up until what was a loss against WE, and now already taking BLG to task. They are up by 3 kills and also about 1,000 gold. This is a pretty good look for FPX so far.
It's so wild to think about where this matchup would have been, what it would have looked like just a split ago, where these 2 teams were at. Last split, we would have never thought FPX would be able to compete with BLG, but so far through the opening 10 minutes, as little as that really means for the stakes of this series, FPX have looked much more polished.
Absolutely, they have, and it's just making it so exciting looking at this group ascend, watching these teams rise and fall. The Circle of Suck has been very strong recently as well. Lots of these best-in-class teams still dropping random matchups for some of these top teams. Like we said, the JDG victory for FPX, a massive one for them to be able to pick up right here. Now, Shadow jumping in onto On.
Oh, can we get some of these melees down? Yep, Flash. Too scared of getting stunned up and locked through with the Glacial Prison. Going to nerf On's ability to create a bit more for BLG in the next 5 minutes.
Indeed. 1 minute though until these next set of grubs are going to be spawning. FPX grabbed all of the first 3 now. FPX potentially looking for a dive before that set spawns for themselves. Knight, a slightly harder target to grab. On is in the area too.
Yep. Is he going to be able to catch Shadow before he gets the push it off? No, the hop still has the stun land. But assume can't get close enough to try and push the bullet time across. Teleport's going to be across. BLG are angry, and they want to try and shut down this dive. And at the very least, they're going to get a ton of flashes out. But guess what? Elk's got some slows. The curtain call is looking to sunset this dive attempt. The equalizer as well. So many slows. Owen trying to get close enough for the dredge line. But look at the turn there. Coming across from Jwei. The bullet time heals all wounds for FPX. And somehow, on the complete back foot, they come away with the 1 kill.
That does mean all of the members of FPX are now down in the bottom side just before these grubs are going to spawn. With Jwei right there. Maybe that's the trade. Elk is just dead,
okay.
Surely.
Fade Seal doesn't land, doesn't matter. Care Soul Unbound gets out, and that's the fourth flash burned. There are no flashes available for FPX, and Knight is on the flank. The golden left hand trying to silence this torrential run in the early game from FPX, but it's still just so pandemonium, so messed up. They get the Buster Bomb, though, to find the kill on Jwei, so Knight can get the reset. He's going to hop towards Assume, who does have Barrier. Trying to buy more space, but Shadow, his health bar is blinking. The Dredge line somehow hits from On. That looked a bit wacky, but a kill's a kill.
Lollipopping right there on the hook. Like you said, a complete and utter mess. Sheer and just get away from Jwei, and that should spell the end of what was a crazy sequence of plays. 3 grubs go over to Jwei. A couple of kills get back for BLG, but overall, FPX, they do manage to come out just about on top. They've still got themselves that 1k gold lead, but now with all of these resets having to come through, they lose a couple of turret platings bot lane. They might lose another turret plate mid right here. Overall, not particularly worthwhile as a dive. It got messy real fast.
And the big prize is Assume was 5-0 with a huge shutdown by that point. And all that gold, I believe, goes right into Knight's pocket, who is always the focal point for BLG, no matter what champion he's playing on, especially with this Tristana that just scales to infinity with range and the itemization paths for this champion. Already with the Yuntal done and building towards a likely IE. Knight's on that same pedestal, resting his golden left hand, per usual.
Indeed. Knight gonna have to have a big performance right here. Been good so far.
Jwei.
On.
Ooh, that bullet time was so misguided that it gets canceled, but they've got the lockdown, Glacial Prison, Magnet Storm, and sometimes you don't need that big misfortune to find kills.
There is a reason that either the Sejuani or the Yone have been banned out so often as a combo. It just gives you so much, and it pairs up so well with these aggressive melee supports that we've been seeing so much of in the meta as well. Between Jwei and Shadow, there's just a ton of lockdown, and even with the bullet time going wide, the damage is still just there.
Enough to pick off the Lily support, but definitely wouldn't have worked against any other of these BLG members. Nonetheless, that pick manifests into a Drake, so we have 3 grubs split, we have first Drake split, we have the gold pretty even, which means all of the pressure of this game is really going to come on to execution of these fights, executions of these competitions.
Absolutely. Right now, got a little while until the next big objectives are going to be spawning, and when there's time, dives are apparently what these teams want to do. This is a really risky dive you want to go for. I think it's much more likely the Shadow just steals away some of these Krugs, although actually Sheer and Assume are coming down as well.
Oh my god. Whatever bug BLG have for dives, it's spread to FPX, and poor On is going to be the sacrifice. They once again, that's the second time in 3 minutes that 5 members of FPX are on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, they're going to pay for it with their top lane tower. You can see in the pip, although who's going to be able to pick this one up first? This is actually pretty important.
First turret's already down, I believe, in the top side.
It is, yeah. There it is. Just about falls. It was so close between the two of them. Oh,
so
boy.
Feats of Strength also going over to FPX, so another little win. It makes the gold lead a little bit bigger from a raw stat standpoint, but BLG do get to steal some camps away too, and we're starting to see some first items coming through for all of FPX. It's just Sheer, not on his Riftmaker just yet.
This is the thing, right? FPX's composition spikes really quite nicely throughout the game, right? It isn't a big hard spike at 1 or 2 items. Each item really does help. It's a very linear progression upwards. BLG, they're kind of waiting for the point at which Elk starts really doing damage. They're waiting for the point at which Knight starts really being able to hit hard. The composition can work right now, but you're kind of reliant on a good multi-man Impale from Jwei over the top of an Equalizer to burn somebody down and get them close enough that Elk and Knight can then pick up those kills, get the resets through, and begin running these team fights. It's a little bit harder to execute overall. FPX, the amount of CC available to them just makes this a lot easier.
This game 1 is just such a good test for who can really execute their composition better with all the CC like you're talking about. Both junglers in such a facilitative role. Depth charge, Glacial Prison traded as Knight does get stunned up. Jwei and Sue are trying to come away on the back end. We also have Care flanking of the Sentry. Bullet time goes down onto Own, but look at the Equalizer. It burns down Sheer. Care finally arrives to the party and sections off Elk. First marksman is down. Knight trying to 1v1 up against Shadow. The Heartsteel pop nearly finds him, but it's Care over the wall. Uses the Fate Seal to cut down the angle. We ask the question, how does FPX beat BLG in this series? And so far, they're showing you exactly how in game 1.
Apparently, the answer is play around the bottom lane and just bring more members quicker, more proactive. The only bright spark in and amongst that team fight was the Equalizer out of bin. You called it out perfectly. FPX, though, with a mega flank with just better play overall, and they're coming out of these skirmishes on top every time. BLG, at some point, you have to question why they keep opting into these fights, because they are also down to clown in this moment. It's not like they decide not to get involved. They bring the teleport in as well. It is a 2-man Impale. That does happen, but it happens before the Equalizer is arrived, so everybody can jump away, flash out of that situation, and Shadow even gets to re-engage. Actually, look at the picture-in-picture, people standing pretty close to each other. I wonder if we're going to get another fight, although this is topside. I didn't know we were allowed to fight in other places on the map.
What? This is illegal.
I know.
I didn't know this. We need to get some... We need to make sure we have the right permits to do this, because this fight is about to break out. They have Assume fly out of it. Somehow we let the AD carry ride in the Rift Herald. That's also a cardinal sin. There are a lot of violations going on, but nonetheless, the mid-tier 1 turret does fall, and Bid's not able to punish FPX too heavily on the bot side lane for it. And everyone calms back down, but gotta take stock of FPX, where some of their integral key players are for that Wombo. My eyes gravitate towards Care, who is already at 2 items with that Mortal Shield Bow and that Yone, and the way he's been able to line up these Fate Seals and most importantly use that Soul Unbound has been really impressive up against a player of a Knight's pedigree.
Exactly, but Knight right here also doing plenty of damage. It's just much harder to play out this Tristana, because anytime you jump up close enough to be able to do your damage, Tristana, a little bit of a low-range ADC, you get jumped immediately by all of the CC that FPX have for themselves. Assume he's had a couple of good bullet times, and that's because this setup for his team, the way that this team is able to get things going early, just been so very impressive. FPX, despite the fact they lost their most recent matchup, it feels like they're coming into this one with all the momentum.
All the momentum, all of the vengeance on the mind. As this Jwei starting off with a crash down. Impale from Jwei does land just onto Shadow, and the crit shot from Elk finds its mark with a huge Equalizer from Bin, and just like that, the former 2-time champs bite off and leave their mark. Elk, completely untouched, is starting to try and run this fight, but the topside melees do trade out Jwei. And resets are coming across here from Knight. He does sport the teleport, so he's going to rejoin this fight. And BLG with their man advantage are not going to let this dragon go quietly. They need to leave a statement in this game, as they have been faltering in some of these fights. And the 50-50 is going to come across onto the dragon. And even though they don't have a jungler, they have Elk, who gets the crit shot. But the distance is cut down by Care once more. Gets a triple kill and makes sure that dragon pays a high price.
Hey, you lose the Drake, but look at the amount of kills FPX get onto key members as well. Care, the triple kill, getting him closer and closer to being just an unkillable force here on the Yone. Jwei has Smite. Jwei has Smite. Okay, we're going to look back at the start of this one, and the key thing here is that Jwei gets the Impale off, and it gets layered with that Equalizer. Exactly what we were hoping for. Shadow burns through, you end up just immediately losing your ADC as well. And things are looking so good for BLG. Like I said, Elk untouched throughout the majority of this fight. But FPX, you've still got these big melee carries. 2 melees and a Sejuani is a recipe for success. Now, where's the smite? What happens? He literally never presses
A Q? There's no way a bouncing grenade is what gets that.
Sheer never presses.
Didn't have smite up.
Sheer... Huh?
Shadow didn't have smite
Shadow
even available. Or Shadow was a part of that fight. You know what? We've been completely misled. But hold on. Look at the wombo that pops. Snap of a fingers. Jwei gets 3 with the Magnet Storm into the bullet time. But luckily for BLG, the Fate Sealed is not what hits, and this Yone is what hits harder. Clutch Equalizer from Bin as well. Make sure they can't even get a tier 2 turret off the back of it.
Yeah. Crazy plays throughout. And at this point, 20 minutes into the game, we're going to have an Atakan up on the top side of the map to potentially go and play around. See who decides to initiate that one, because so far FPX, they'll be coming out on top of all of these fights. The proactivity of this squad. We'll have a look back because we missed the beginning of this one, and it's just Care over the wall getting that initial catch onto On. Nice from Jwei. Everybody gets pulled in. Fate sealed. Oh,
I think it only hit Bin.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it needed to be a little bit further over towards the right from his perspective. At the same time, that's not going to be the end of the world. They still end up winning out onto that fight. And can now peel back. You can see at the moment, everybody from FPX is in a good spot. They've got multiple items under their belts. The item breakpoints, they're still a little ways off from really coming through for BLG. You need that 3rd item completed really onto both Knight and Elk to make this work, and they've only just completed their 2nd.
Especially with Elk's build path as well.
Yeah,
Collector
it's
and
so
Rapid Fire Cannon. It does have a lot of trouble getting through Shadow's health bar by this point, who the main person is going to try and stand in front of him. But Double Marksman is never going to have a damage issue the longer a game goes on. But the onus on a lot of these fights has still been dictated by FPX. And they've been quite clean and chaining some of their ultimates together, especially Care, who now, as that big 6-0 Yone, provides an extra threat on that side lane. Nobody can really challenge him 1 versus 1.
Oh,
so we have Owen fishing and coming up completely short for the pick. Impale does come on it too. The bullet time used defensively from Asun to make sure Knight doesn't go too far forward. And who else but Care to fly in on the flank. Finds the kill onto Owen, but that's just the support. And the Equalizer gets a ton of value. Crit shots are flying to get slows up. Shadow is trying to play frontline, trying to be the big bag tank, lead the rest of his team out and away from danger. And he will do so by the skin of his teeth.
Close, really close. I wonder if there might be an immediate turn on towards this Atakan from BLG. You know the resets are coming through from your opponents. No, instead, BLG, they decide they're not in a strong enough place to just pull the trigger on that. Head off back to base for themselves as well. And that's now full resets coming through from the FPX members. They're not going to be in a pretty good spot to be able to potentially play onto this one as well. Less than a minute too until this next dragon is going to spawn. Mountain Drake would be huge right now with a lot of these executes and big damage carries. Having that shield for yourselves through the Mountain Soul would be a massive boon to whichever team is able to grab that one for themselves. Right now, though, it is going to be the play around the top side.
It's going to be Shadow making the call. We're starting Atakan. A lot of ultimates online. Everyone except Elk really has his flash.
Burning.
And this thing is just gone. They have been on the bot side. He's catching waves, and Elk is not close enough. It's still important to pick up those petals, pick up those flowers, but even that won't be contested. So, an Atakan for no price, except maybe Care.
Big flank.
Yeah, Care is 6-0. Remember, this is the Golden Goose with a huge shutdown. Dredgeline perfectly positioned from On. It's both the tanks, but Wade does have the Impale if he needs it. Grabs Care, and Knight is going to be gifted a huge bounty. Watch the gold add up. He does have to burn the flash, but cashes in 1,000 Gs to the pocket. The perfect pick found for BLG.
Exactly what they needed to do, and I really like that from On, was setting that one up the entire time that the Atakan was going down. Now, is it fully worthwhile for the Atakan? We'll have to wait and see. You obviously get extra on towards these Drakes if FPX are going to be able to grab the rest of these. So this buff from the Atakan may well get better and better. We'll see. We'll see. For right now, like you said, that 1,000 gold going to be massive. Hasn't gone back to base to be able to spend it quite yet. We'll see what this turns into right now. Ooh, just components towards being able to grab that LDR.
Big components, though. You're filling out most of that LDR. And Knight will only really start to increase his range by this point. And 3 items with a armor shred item will make it so that Shadow can even fall weak and prey
Dragon's
tonight. Just like this dragon did.
Yeah.
Double marksman difference, man.
Oh yeah, just shredding straight through these things. The decision from FPX was to not contest for that one, instead try to get this mid lane at tier 2 tower down. It has the smallest amount of HP. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, Bin has to flash away from that one. The Glacial Prison that lands from Shadow, that would have just been one dead Rumble. And I think in this game, Bin has very much been the key. Every single time we see these team fights begin to work really well for FPX, they have to back off and play it slowly because an equalizer lands and just starts melting them.
And while FPX have given up, you know, that dragon on the map, some priority in the side lanes, I do think with the style of their comp relying so much on multi-man ultimate grabs, getting flashes out of those solo lanes from Knight and Bin is super integral. Flash is what's been spoiling the perfect bullet times, the perfect fate sealed. So now, if you're BLG, if you're Knight and Bin, you have to be a bit more careful about how you position around these fights, especially with Baron now in the cards.
Yeah, Baron, like we've been saying, both of these squads can just melt through these neutral objectives. So you've got to be careful to not miss position, not take too many resets all at once, and leave yourself vulnerable to just having this one stolen out from under you. 3 apiece on the grubs, so nobody's going to get any extra benefit from that. Still, though, FPX, they've been a lot more successful with taking towers so far, 4-2. Means that they've just got way more space to be able to play with. You can see right now, Jwei, assume, just going to step up around this Baron. They are fully on a ward, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of good warning coming down from On. He gets a Dream Dredge line. Hello, they catch out Assume. There's no cleanse available. He flashes the Buster shot with the bomb ticking over Assume. Wow, mere single HP points to keep him alive. But what does FPX look like without that clutch bullet time? I've got the answer. Mincemeat. Sheer goes down. Pick found. Knight does fall. But it's a 2-for-1 as both soul lanes of FPX drop. And is that enough for BLG to say, time to dance with the purple worm?
Oh, the fact that the Buster shot with bomb combo didn't quite end up in the kill really sucks, but it still cancelled the bullet time. Massive play right there out of Knight, even though he does end up falling as well. But now, this Baron falling relatively quickly, although not as fast as with that Tristana. Shadow is here.
He won't get into the pit, though. Wei's going to deny him. On is there.
He
Baron is gone unless he can flash in. Gets the Glacial Person onto Elk. Shadow, you have to go after the Baron. He doesn't want it, though, and it's secured by Wei. And now BLG have no reason to stay. And they'll bounce out with 4 members, potentially even 5, sporting that purple Baron, depending on when Knight respawned.
Well played right there. We'll have a look back at this one. Watch the hook right here from On. Oh, it's so unfortunate for Assume. He walks straight into this one, straight into the Deadly Flourish as well. Now, this is what we didn't see. This is what happened on the backside of this fight.
There we go, Wei.
This is the combo. You have to be perfect between Wei and Bin. Usually you would expect it to be the Impale into Equalizer combo, but in this situation, you don't even need to use that ult. He just burns him straight on down with that Fame Spitter. And now, BLG, after what was a pretty bad early game, have managed to claw their way back into this game. In fact, the gold is now dead even.
It's great to see Wei getting these clutch Impales in these last couple of fights, these last couple of skirmishes. The guy that's had by far the most scrutiny for BLG after their slow start to group ascend has been asked. There's always a lot of him asked, knowing he's got such world-renowned solo lanes. And right now, he's been the difference maker, and he's looking to do it again as he flashes to get the Ixtal's impact. The Impale, though, is canceled by the Soul Unbound recall, and the man we were just praising is completely caught. Wei disintegrated by Care.
So how does it feel to cast a curse?
My stomach hurts.
Wei in that situation.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That sucks so bad. I mean, it's not exactly the worst timing for this to have happened, right? You don't have a Drake spawning for another 50 seconds. The Baron already went down to BLG. You know, it could be worse. Then again, you really don't want to be giving those kills back over and using such a big ulti in that situation for absolutely no benefit. Again, not going to be ideal right here. This should slow things down. We'll have a look back at the pain and suffering of Wei. Soul Unbound.
It's going to be a cool interaction, though.
Yeah, it takes priority here.
And...
Bye-bye.
Immune.
Nope.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
Nope.
just about able to get himself away with that one, and the immediate collapse onto Jwei. I mean, I think in this situation, right, even if you do manage to pull Care further back, you probably still die as Jwei. You've gone very far in, and FPX are booking it over to try to help out their mid laner. Now, though, we are going to have the Mountain Drake spawn. It would be Soul if BLG can pick this up for themselves. FPX, they can't afford to lose out onto this one.
See Jwei try and pilot them forward into the pit. This is Mountain Soul Point, like you called out, so everybody's teleporting in. Sheer cancels a big flank blast cone. Does Jwei have the odds to go in for the pit and try and steal this Mountain Drake? No, he doesn't want to give his life. It's not going to force anything too bad onto them, as Shadow does jump towards BLG backline. Elk and Bin stay safe, though the Glacial Prison doesn't find any spark. None of these ultimates are really lining up for anybody. They get an equalizer that doesn't get any value, but what does get the value? The bullet time that arrives right on tote for FPX, and now they just blow through BLG. Both marksmen don't mean squat. FPX are the kings of this game one.
They really are. They're going to be able to run this one forwards. 30-second death timers on the majority of these carries. 40 seconds on these ADCs. This should well be the end of the game right here. Having to wait for minion waves. Things are a little bit slow right now. Let's see. Can they do it? 30 seconds until anybody really important going to be back up. This is going to be game right here. FPX, I mean, what more could you want? Taking out BLG in game one, honestly, in a pretty dominant fashion.
What a statement from FPX. We've talked about their meteoric rise through that 3-win streak. It's playing as a team and having fun while doing it. And you can see the smiles on the squad as they lock back in with a 1-0 lead against the former 2-time champs, the kings of the LPL in 2024.
BLG, what has happened? The whole squad feels like it's not working to the same level of efficiency. There were multiple teamfights there where it felt like Elk and Knight were just never allowed to sit and put those auto attacks down. This was one of those games where, yeah, maybe the Wombo combo wasn't necessarily 100% focused on the Misfortune. Decent damage coming through from the Misfortune, but more, it just completely stopped any potential engage and damage coming through from BLG, and then Sheer and Care can just go leaping into the back line. Care, for the most part, was using his ulti just as a gap closer to go murder someone at the end of these teamfights. Really nice to see.
Awesome for FPX, knowing that they have that identity as a squad, and they can find wins with it against some of the best. I know the record for BLG has been disappointing, and some scrutiny needs to come their way, but you're still beating a team that a split ago, nobody would have ever given you a chance against them. And now they have a chance to send them to 4-4 and put FPX right next to them in those group ascent standings.
The fact that, at this point, BLG are looking like one of those mid-bottom pack teams, that's crazy, right? Surely, when we were looking at them and like, okay, they're not looking so hot, but they'll be the 5th place team, right? They may just miss out onto going straight into the playoffs, but they'll be fine, right? If they begin to lose matchups here, if they end up losing here, specifically 2-0 to FPX, you've got big questions around them, because this is an FPX that just lost to WE. WE, another one of these teams on a rise, sat in this mid-pack. If they lose to them at some point as well, you're getting pushed further and further down. Now, of course, you're in Group Ascend, so it's not the end of the world. You still make it to those play-ins regardless, but seeding is going to matter, and those play-ins are kind of crazy as well. There's not a lot of games in them. You know, you want to be in your absolute best form right now, and it feels like, unfortunately, BLG are taking quite the slide.
Quite the slide indeed, as they luckily have a ton more series to play, regardless where this is at, and they are by far not out of this spot as well. But it's going to be a big test for a team that sports some of the best players, the premier players that a lot of people say this region has had to offer for the last year or so in a tough spot. A lot of credit going over to FPX in this one. Assume gets a ton of value out of this Misfortune. Cares Yone was, I would say, near perfect. His positioning on some of these flanks as well was really the difference maker.
Yeah, there was one ulti that wasn't quite landed as well as you would have hoped for, but overall, a really, really solid performance out of everybody right here from FPX. I mean, even Assume, who got caught out once there, was still doing good work with the bullet time, was able to bully out into this bot lane matchup as well. They were able to get a couple of kills onto top laners too. Just overall, a really nice look from FPX, the kind of cohesive, team-based win that you really are looking for from these squads who aren't necessarily at the top right now. It's where you want to be seeing them being able to get better and better the more they play together right here. There's moments here where Jwei's jumping in, not necessarily this one, but he's jumping in, grabbing big magnet storms, being able to pull his team together. And even here, like, it's not the end of the world for FPX that you lose your support. You still end up finding a couple of kills before we jumped into this replay too.
No matter what's going on in League of Legends, you will always have silly dredge lines from Nautilus. It's always fun. We saw that last one, but
it's the way of the champion, you know?
Yep. Here's the way of Kara, though, on this flank that we were talking about, is this fight. It took him a while to get here, but shows up to the party and is the difference maker. And again, the prevailing thought, I'm glad you made the sentiment that we were asking FPX after that abysmal split one, just, show improvements and really take control of getting to compete against some of these great teams in Group Ascend. And they have just continued to level up and show that they can execute some really complicated and integral comps that are asking you to be the aggressors, asking you to dictate the tempo. That's what I think is the big thing to take away from this Game 1 for FPX.
Right now, when talking about the way that teams have been going in this Group Ascend, you talk about Hop and AL as being those best in class. JGG, IG, they're looking absolutely fine by themselves. But then you talk about the teams who are having a bit of a slide, and you mentioned the names Ninjas in Pajamas, Underdog, and BLG. You don't want to be in the same conversation as those other guys right now. Those two teams have been looking horrible. BLG, I don't think they've been looking that bad, but it's not good.
Those two of the three teams you just mentioned there were upper bracket playoff contenders. That is, that's how.
What a change from split
what
one to split two.
That's why I want to keep talking about how this is. This just like the changing. Is this a changing of the guard split? Again, I have to preface that this is a unique format that is so grueling on every team. They're playing so many games. They're playing 18 best of threes is mind-boggling. But it does, it is best to show who is really the most informed. This format does not, give freebies. Whoever is playing the best League of Legends at the time will prosper, and whoever is slacking off and dropping games, dropping series will be punished. And unfortunately, that is where BLG is at right now.
Yeah, I mean, whoever comes out on top of this is going to be a toughened warrior of a team. Should hopefully give the LPL a better look for themselves going into the next international tournament, MSI.
That's the hope.
Let's see who actually grabs this one. Okay,
Jwei.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with Jwei being able to pick that one up. I thought he had a really solid game right there. And in these sort of matchups where you've got tons of damage from your top laner, your mid lane, your ADC, well, the facilitator